Remember me, rancher? I'm the Apache girl you saved years ago. I've returned to marry you. James Whittaker had always been a man of the land. He had grown up running his father's cattle ranch on the edge of the Arizona desert, a place where the sun baked the earth during the day and the nights were cold and quiet. Life on the ranch was simple but hard, and James had learned early that a man could not rely on anyone but himself. Still, he was known in the neighboring settlements for being fair and dependable. Folks trusted him not because he was rich or powerful, but because he worked hard and kept his word. It was late one afternoon when James noticed something unusual while riding along the ridge that overlooked a narrow canyon. He had been checking his herd, counting cattle, and making sure none had wandered off. The desert was quiet, except for the distant call of a hawk and the occasional rustle of dry brush in the wind. But today something caught his eye, a small figure huddled near a cluster of rocks, moving as though trying to hide. James slowed his horse and squinted. At first he thought it might be a lost child from a nearby settlement, but as he drew closer, he realized it was a young girl. She appeared no more than 10 years old, with dark hair tangled and dusty from the desert, and eyes wide with fear. Her clothes were torn and she held herself stiffly as if ready to run at the first sign of danger. James dismounted slowly, keeping his hands visible. "Hey there," he said gently, trying not to startle her. "You all right?" The girl flinched at his voice, clutching a small bundle of cloth to her chest. She did not speak. Her silence told James she had been through something frightening. He knelt a few feet away, making sure to appear non-threatening. "It's okay," he said. "I'm not here to hurt you." "My name's James. Are you lost?" Her eyes darted toward the canyon, then back to him. Finally, in a voice so quiet it was almost a whisper, she said, I need to hide." James understood immediately. There was something more to this than a simple lost child. He looked around, noting that the canyon's rocks could hide someone but also posed dangers of their own. "All right," he said. "You can stay here with me. You're safe." For a long moment she hesitated, then slowly moved closer, still wary. James offered her some water from his canteen, and after a tense pause, she drank. He noticed the girl's hands were scratched and bruised. Her feet were bare, covered in dust and small cuts from the rocky ground. James could see she had been traveling, running perhaps for quite some time. "What's your name?" he asked gently. "Nayeli," she said at last, her voice trembling. "That's a beautiful name," James said with a reassuring smile. "Where are your folks, Nayeli?" She shook her head. I don't know. They were gone." Her eyes filled with tears, and James felt a sharp pang in his chest. He knew immediately that this child had faced more danger than any 10-year-old should. Perhaps she had escaped from someone trying to harm her. Perhaps she had been alone in the desert for days. Either way, James knew he could not leave her there. He made a decision. "Come with me," he said. "I have a place where you can rest and be safe. You won't have to hide anymore." Nayeli hesitated, torn between fear and trust. Finally, she nodded, and James led her down the path toward his ranch. The journey was slow. The sun was setting, painting the desert in shades of orange and purple, and the air had begun to cool. James kept talking softly to distract her from the fear he could see in her eyes. He told her stories about the ranch, the cattle, and the animals she might see. Slowly, her tension began to ease. When they finally reached the ranch, James led her to a small cabin near the edge of the property. It was simple, with a stone fireplace and a few wooden chairs, but it was warm and safe. He offered her food and helped her clean the cuts on her hands and feet. Nayeli was hesitant at first, but James's gentle care made her trust him. Over the next few days, James made sure Nayeli had everything she needed. He gave her clean clothes and a soft blanket, and he watched as she explored the cabin, her curiosity slowly replacing fear. She asked questions about the ranch, the horses, and even the small garden James tended. Her laughter, small at first, began to fill the quiet cabin. James had not realized how silent his days had been until he heard her giggle at something simple, a rabbit hopping across the yard or a bird landing on the fence. But the bond between them went deeper than companionship. James noticed how attentive she was, how careful and how brave despite all she had endured. He admired her courage, her intelligence, and the way she observed the world with sharp eyes. Nayeli, in turn, began to admire James, not just for saving her, but for treating her with respect and kindness when so many others had ignored or feared people like her. As days turned into weeks, James began to teach her small skills she could use in the desert. How to find clean water, how to recognize animal tracks, and how to move quietly across the land. Nayeli absorbed every lesson with determination, eager to prove herself capable. She asked questions, often surprising James with her cleverness and insight. It was clear that she had already learned to survive in harsh conditions, and now she was learning to thrive. Despite their growing bond, James knew their situation was complicated. He was aware of the prejudice in the surrounding settlements against Native Americans, and he feared what might happen if anyone discovered Nayeli at his ranch. Yet every time he looked at her, he felt that protecting her was more important than worrying about the judgment of others. She had already suffered too much, and he would not let fear of society prevent him from doing what was right. One night, as the stars blanketed the sky, Nayeli confided in James. She spoke of the raiders who had attacked her village, of the fire that had destroyed her home, and of the friends and family she had lost. Her voice trembled as she recounted these memories, but James held her hand gently, letting her speak without interruption. He felt a mix of sorrow and anger, sorrow for what she had endured, and anger at the injustice of a world that allowed such suffering. "You're safe now," he said softly. "I won't let anything happen to you." Nayeli looked at him, her dark eyes reflecting both gratitude and something deeper, an understanding that she had found someone she could trust completely. For the first time in weeks, maybe months, she felt a flicker of hope. Days later, James rode out to check his cattle, and Nayeli insisted on coming along. She was cautious at first, clinging to him, but soon she was walking alongside, asking questions about the land and animals. James laughed at her curiosity, enjoying her presence more than he had realized he would. The desert, once lonely and harsh, now felt alive with possibility. The people in the nearby settlement soon noticed that James had returned with a new companion. Rumors spread, some supportive, others suspicious, but James paid them no mind. He knew what mattered most. Nayeli was safe, and she was learning to trust the world again. He made plans to contact her family if possible, wanting to reunite her, but he also understood that it might take time. During one quiet evening, as the wind rustled through the trees, Nayeli asked James a question that made him pause. "Why did you help me?" she asked. Her voice was earnest, full of curiosity. James looked at her, thinking about the harshness of the world and the kindness he had been taught to value. "Because it was the right thing to do," he said simply. "No one deserves to be left alone when they need help." Nayeli smiled, a small but genuine expression, and James felt a warmth in his chest he had not felt in years. He realized that their meeting was not just an accident. It was a moment that would shape both their lives forever. Over the weeks, James and Nayeli formed a rhythm together. She helped with chores, fed the animals, and learned the ways of the ranch. He taught her to ride horses, to understand the land, and to face challenges with courage. Their relationship, built on trust and respect, grew steadily. Though James was careful to maintain boundaries, he could not ignore the deep connection that had formed between them, one born from compassion, bravery, and shared experience. The moment of parting came sooner than James had hoped. Word arrived that Nayeli's family, having survived the raid, was nearby and wanted to see her. He knew it was the right thing to reunite her with her people, but the thought of letting her go filled him with a strange, unspoken ache. Nayeli hugged him tightly, whispering, "Thank you. You saved me. I will never forget you." James watched her leave, standing alone in the desert twilight. Though his heart felt heavy, he knew that their bond would endure even across distance and years. He had given her safety, guidance, and trust, and she had given him a reminder of the good that could exist even in the harshest world. That night, under a sky full of stars, James made a quiet promise to himself. He would never forget the little Apache girl he had saved, and somehow he knew their story was not over. After Nayeli returned to her family, life on the ranch felt quiet in a way that made James feel empty. The days passed with the same rhythm as before, feeding the cattle, mending fences, checking the water troughs. But something was missing. He missed the little girl who had brought a lightness to the lonely stretches of desert and a sense of purpose beyond the work itself. Her laughter and curiosity had filled the silence of the ranch, and now the echo of her absence seemed to follow him everywhere. Meanwhile, Nayeli returned to her village, surrounded by people she had thought she might never see again. Her parents were overjoyed to see her alive, and the elders of the tribe praised her courage in escaping the raiders. Yet, for all the happiness around her, Naomi could not forget the man who had saved her. She remembered his quiet strength, the way he had treated her with respect, and the warmth that had filled the cabin when she had first begun to feel safe again. Every detail lingered in her mind: the creak of the cabin door, the smell of hay and leather, the gentle way he had bandaged her hands. The seasons changed quickly in the Arizona desert. Summer's heat baked the earth, followed by the crisp, cool winds of winter. Naomi grew taller, her hair longer, her eyes sharper with the knowledge and skills she had learned both in her tribe and from James's lessons. She helped her family tend to the crops and animals, learning quickly and showing a remarkable strength and intelligence. Yet despite her busy days and responsibilities, her thoughts often drifted to the ranch and the man who had saved her from danger. James, on the other hand, carried on with the ranch. He often found himself looking at the horizon as if expecting her to appear from the dust, riding a horse or running along the canyon trail. He told no one about these thoughts, because he knew how improbable it seemed that a young girl he had rescued years ago would ever return. Still, he felt a quiet hope that life had not finished writing their story. During these years of separation, Naomi's life was full in other ways. She became skilled in her community, learning the ways of the land, the stories of her people, and the strength that came from surviving hardships. She became a natural leader among her friends, admired not just for her bravery but also for her kindness and fairness. She shared stories of her journey and subtly honored James's role in her survival, though few outside her family knew the full truth. Her heart carried the memory of him as a quiet, steady presence, a reminder that one act of courage could change a life forever. Letters from traveling traders occasionally reached James's hands, speaking of nearby villages and events. Through these letters, he learned about Naomi's growth and accomplishments, though he could not know the full details of her life. Still, he took comfort in the knowledge that she was alive, thriving, and respected by her people. He shared these letters with no one, but he kept them carefully, folding each one and placing it in a wooden box by his bedside. They were treasures, small reminders that the girl he had saved continued to flourish. Both of them grew in ways that neither could have predicted. James became a respected rancher, expanding his land and reputation. He still worked hard, but he found moments to reflect, to remember the desert afternoons with Naomi, and to consider how courage and kindness could ripple through life in unexpected ways. Naomi, meanwhile, became known for her wisdom and courage. Her people admired her strength, but it was her compassion that truly stood out. She helped younger children in the tribe, guided travelers lost in the desert, and spoke with quiet confidence whenever decisions needed to be made. Even as the years passed, the memory of their brief time together remained vivid. Naomi sometimes recalled small details: the sound of James's voice as he told stories by the fireplace, the way he laughed when she asked endless questions about the animals, and the warmth of his hand when he helped her stand on her first horse ride. Each memory carried a gentle but powerful emotion, a gratitude that ran deeper than words, a bond that neither time nor distance could erase. For James, the memory of Naomi was intertwined with lessons about life and humanity. He realized that saving her had not only been a moral choice, but also a moment that changed the way he looked at the world. He thought often about fairness, courage, and how one person's actions could alter another person's entire future. He had saved her because it was right, but he had also learned that hope and trust were as essential as water in the desert, sustaining people through even the harshest seasons. Occasionally, travelers or traders would mention a young woman in the region who was remarkable for her bravery and intelligence. James paid attention, quietly noting her description. He could not be sure, but he sometimes wondered if it was Naomi. These moments filled him with longing, yet he did not dare to expect anything more. He simply hoped that life had been kind to her. Naomi, too, thought of him often. She reflected on the days at the ranch not with sadness but with warmth. Those moments had taught her trust, patience, and courage. She remembered the lessons he had shared about the desert, about observation and care, about bravery not as the absence of fear, but as the strength to act despite it. As she grew, these lessons became part of her daily life, guiding her in both small decisions and moments of great consequence. One afternoon, Naomi climbed a small hill overlooking the desert, a place where she could see for miles. She thought about the boyish man with kind eyes who had saved her, the cabin tucked at the edge of the ranch, and the quiet evenings filled with stories and laughter. She realized that her life had been shaped not only by the trials she had faced, but also by the generosity of a stranger who had risked his own safety to ensure hers. It struck her that love could exist even without expectation, that courage could create bonds stronger than blood, and that gratitude could last a lifetime. In James's ranch, the days and nights continued. He repaired fences, herded cattle, and maintained his land, but there was a quiet space in his heart reserved for the girl he had saved. He often stared at the horizon during the long evenings, imagining what she might be doing, hoping she was safe, and wondering if fate would ever bring them together again. The years stretched on, and their memories, though separate, continued to intertwine in invisible ways. Nayeli developed skills and wisdom that made her a remarkable woman. She learned the traditions of her people, became an excellent horse rider, and developed a deep understanding of the land. At the same time, James honed his ranching skills, managed his herd, and became known as a man of integrity and fairness in the community. Yet, for both, the memory of the desert days they had shared remained a central thread in their lives. Despite the separation, life had a way of preparing them for the future. Nayeli's experiences shaped her into someone confident, wise, and strong, while James's life taught patience, reflection, and the quiet strength of waiting for the right moment. Both had learned lessons they would carry forever: the importance of trust, the courage to act even when unsure, and the enduring impact of kindness. Sometimes, when Nayeli helped a child navigate a difficult path or guided someone lost in the desert, she thought of James. She remembered how he had taught her to read the land, to recognize dangers, and to move carefully yet confidently. These lessons were now second nature, yet every time she used them, she felt a small connection to the man who had shown her that safety and care could exist even in a harsh world. James, too, felt these invisible threads. Whenever he looked at a young horse or watched a child learning to navigate the ranch, he was reminded of Nayeli's curiosity and intelligence. He often found himself smiling at memories of her small hands clutching the reins, her dark eyes wide with wonder, and the way she had challenged him with questions that he sometimes had trouble answering. The memory of her bravery and spirit remained vivid, warming him even during the loneliest days. As the years passed, the longing remained, but it was now paired with a quiet certainty that life had a plan. Both James and Nayeli carried hope in different ways. She hoped to one day see him again, to thank him properly, and to share her life with someone who had shaped her so profoundly. He hoped, perhaps without even realizing it, that fate would bring the girl he had saved back into his world. The desert held many secrets, and life moved in unexpected ways. Yet the story of James and Nayeli was quietly unfolding, woven into the landscape, the animals, and the rhythm of survival. Both had grown stronger, wiser, and more patient, ready for the moment when their paths would cross again. And so, the years of separation passed, each day adding layers of experience, understanding, and hope. Nayeli became a remarkable young woman, shaped by her heritage and the lessons of survival, while James became a man defined not just by his labor, but by his integrity and courage. Both carried the memory of their first meeting like a flame, steady and warm, illuminating the path toward a future neither could yet see but both felt was waiting. Years had passed since Nayeli had left the ranch, and in that time she had grown into a strong, intelligent, and confident young woman. Life had not been easy, but she had faced every challenge with courage and determination. She had learned much from her tribe, her family, and the world around her, and she had never forgotten the man who had saved her when she was a frightened child. His kindness had stayed with her, shaping the person she had become. Now, as she prepared to leave her village and journey back to the ranch, her heart was full of hope, excitement, and a little nervousness. The morning she set out, the sun was just beginning to rise, casting soft golden light over the desert. Nayeli walked with purpose, her dark hair tied neatly behind her head, and her clothing practical for the long journey ahead. She carried only what was necessary: a small satchel with supplies, a water canteen, and a bundle of carefully wrapped letters, sketches, and keepsakes from her years in the village. These were memories she had collected, reminders of the life she had lived, and proof that she had grown into someone capable of shaping her own destiny. As she moved across the desert, Naomi thought of James. She remembered his quiet strength, the patience with which he had taught her, and the warmth of his presence. She remembered the laughter they had shared, the stories he had told, and the way he had made her feel safe in a world that had often been frightening. More than anything, she remembered the promise she had made to herself long ago, that if she ever had the chance, she would return to see him, to thank him properly, and perhaps to share a new chapter of her life with him. The journey was long and challenging. The desert was unforgiving, with dry heat during the day and sharp cold at night. Naomi traveled mostly on horseback, but there were stretches where she had to walk, carefully avoiding snakes, cacti, and uneven ground. Her skills from both her upbringing and the lessons James had taught her guided her steps. She read the signs of the land, found water where it seemed impossible, and kept herself safe through patience and careful observation. During the days she traveled, she met a few traders and travelers. Some offered directions, others food or water, and a few were curious about her journey. Naomi spoke politely but briefly, keeping her focus on the ranch and the man she sought. She did not reveal much about herself because she wanted the reunion to be private, intimate, and personal. The journey was her own, a test of determination and courage, just as much as the challenges she had faced as a child. Back at the ranch, James continued his daily routine. The years of waiting had taught him patience, but he could not deny the quiet longing he felt for Naomi. He sometimes rode out along the same ridges he had once ridden with her, scanning the horizon with a hope he hardly dared to name aloud. He had expanded the ranch, tended to the land, and worked hard to keep life steady, but there was always an emptiness that could not be filled. The memory of her, vivid and unchanging, lingered like a gentle echo in his heart. One evening, as James was checking the cattle near the western ridge, he spotted a lone figure approaching in the distance. At first, he thought it might be a traveler or a trader, but as the figure grew closer, his heart skipped a beat. The dark hair, the confident stride, the familiar posture, it all stirred a memory he had carried for years. Could it really be her? Naomi. The girl he had saved so long ago, now grown into a remarkable young woman. He slowed his horse and squinted, unsure if his eyes were deceiving him. The figure stopped at a safe distance and raised a hand in greeting. Naomi's voice called softly across the desert wind, "Remember me, rancher?" James's eyes widened. He felt as though the years of waiting and longing had been condensed into this single moment. "Naomi," he whispered, almost in disbelief. "Is it really you?" Naomi smiled, her dark eyes shining. "Yes," she said, her voice calm but full of emotion. "I am the Apache girl you saved years ago. I have returned." She paused, taking a deep breath, and then added with a quiet confidence, "I have come to ask for your hand in marriage." James felt his heart leap, a mixture of joy, shock, and deep emotion. He had not expected this, not in a million years, yet something in her presence, the way she carried herself, the warmth in her eyes, the strength and courage he had always admired, made him feel certain that this was meant to be. He dismounted slowly, his hands trembling slightly, and walked toward her. Naomi did not move. She stood tall, waiting for him, the desert wind gently lifting her hair. James stopped a few feet away, studying her face, noting how she had grown, how her presence filled the space with confidence and grace. He felt a wave of gratitude, relief, and love all at once. I can't believe it," he said finally, his voice husky with emotion. "After all these years, you came back." "Yes," Naomi said softly. "I kept the memory of what you did for me, and I knew I had to return. You saved my life, James. You taught me trust and courage. I have returned because I want to share my life with you." James felt a tear roll down his cheek. He had imagined this moment countless times, but now that it was real, it felt more incredible than any dream. He reached out his hand, and Naomi took it. Their fingers intertwined naturally, as if they had never been apart. The years of separation melted away, leaving only the bond that had formed so many years before, now stronger, deeper, and full of promise. They spent the next few hours walking across the ranch together, speaking softly, sharing stories of the years they had spent apart. Naomi told him of her experiences in the village, the lessons she had learned, and the people she had helped along the way. James shared tales of the ranch, the challenges he had faced, and the quiet moments of reflection that had kept her memory alive in his heart. As the sun began to set, casting a warm golden light across the desert, James and Naomi sat together on a large rock overlooking the valley. The sky was painted in shades of orange, pink, and purple, and the desert seemed to stretch endlessly around them. Naomi rested her head on James's shoulder, feeling the warmth and strength of the man who had saved her. James wrapped an arm around her, feeling a sense of completeness he had not known in years. The reunion was not without challenges, of course. James knew that their union would not be immediately accepted by everyone in the neighboring settlements or even by members of Naomi's tribe. Cultural differences, prejudice, and curiosity could create obstacles. Yet in that moment, none of that mattered. They had found each other again, and that connection, born of courage, trust, and shared history, was stronger than any outside force. Over the next few days, Naomi settled into the ranch. She began learning the ways of ranch life more fully, helping with the animals, understanding the rhythms of the land, and sharing her insights with James. He was amazed at her intelligence, her curiosity, and her natural ability to adapt. She had grown into a remarkable woman, capable, wise, and kind. Every day, James found new reasons to admire her, not just for her beauty or her courage, but for her heart and her unwavering spirit. The people from nearby settlements who came to the ranch soon noticed her presence. Some were curious, others skeptical, but Naomi met everyone with quiet confidence and politeness. She did not boast or demand respect. It was earned naturally through her actions and demeanor. Over time, even the skeptics began to see the bond between James and Naomi and the deep trust and affection they shared. It became clear that this was not a fleeting connection, but a partnership rooted in years of history, shared values, and mutual respect. One evening, as they watched the stars emerge in the clear desert sky, Naomi spoke softly. "James, I have waited a long time for this moment, not just to return, but to be with you. I want to build a life together no matter the challenges." James took her hand in his and smiled. "Naomi, you have already changed my life once. I could never imagine it without you. If you are willing, I want nothing more than to spend the rest of my life with you." They sat together in silence, the desert around them calm and endless, feeling the profound connection that had survived time, distance, and circumstance. They knew that their journey was only beginning, but for the first time in many years, both felt a sense of completeness, of hope, and of love that could not be broken. As the weeks passed, James and Naomi began planning their future together. They discussed how to unite their lives, share responsibilities on the ranch, and honor both her heritage and his life in the desert. The process required patience, compromise, and understanding, but it was joyful work, filled with laughter, conversation, and the quiet moments that deepen a bond between two people. The reunion had been more than a simple return. It was a testament to courage, loyalty, and the enduring power of kindness. Naomi had returned not just to reunite with James, but to create a life together built on trust, love, and respect. And James, who had once been a solitary man, now found his life fuller than he had ever imagined, filled with purpose, joy, and a love that had waited patiently across the years. Life at the ranch changed in a way that was both exciting and challenging after Naomi returned. James and Naomi had been reunited, but now they faced the task of blending their lives completely. The ranch had grown larger over the years, with more animals, fences, and responsibilities than ever before. James was no stranger to hard work, but having Naomi by his side brought a new energy, a new perspective, and a sense of partnership that made everything feel lighter. Naomi quickly adapted to ranch life. She learned to help with the cattle, guide the horses, and care for the small garden that James had cultivated over the years. At first, some of the workers were cautious around her, unsure how to treat a woman who was so confident and capable. But Naomi's quiet determination and intelligence won them over. She did not demand respect, but she earned it through her actions. She was observant, careful, and always willing to lend a hand where it was needed. James watched her closely, marveling at how far she had come. She was no longer the small, frightened girl he had saved in the desert. She was a strong, self-assured woman with a deep understanding of the land, animals, and people around her. And yet, despite her strength, there was a softness in her that reminded him of the trust and vulnerability she had shown him as a child. He realized that this combination of courage and compassion was rare and precious, and he felt a deep gratitude that life had brought her back to him. As the days passed, they began to plan for the future. They spoke about marriage, not just as a ceremony, but as a promise to build a life together. Naomi wanted to honor her heritage, and James wanted to honor hers, so they discussed how to blend traditions, celebrations, and responsibilities in a way that felt meaningful to both of them. They talked about raising a family, managing the ranch, and supporting the community around them. Every discussion was filled with laughter, compromise, and a growing sense of teamwork. The news of Naomi's return and their plans to marry spread slowly through the nearby settlements. Reactions were mixed. Some were curious, others skeptical, and a few were openly critical. Cultural differences and prejudice were still present in the minds of many, but James and Naomi did not let this deter them. They focused on their bond, on their love, and on the shared history that had brought them together. Their confidence and respect for one another gradually began to change the opinions of those around them. Naomi also visited her tribe regularly, introducing James to her family and elders. At first, there was caution. Her parents and elders wanted to ensure that he truly respected her and could provide for her. James, with his quiet honesty and sincerity, slowly earned their trust. He spoke openly about the years of waiting, the care he had taken in raising the ranch, and the deep respect he held for Naomi. Over time, her family welcomed him, appreciating the bond that had already been established between them. The wedding itself was a beautiful blend of both worlds. The ceremony was simple but meaningful, held at the ranch with the desert stretching endlessly behind them. Naomi wore a dress that reflected her heritage, adorned with symbols and colors significant to her people. James wore the clothing of a rancher, practical and clean, yet with a touch of elegance for the occasion. Family, friends, and neighbors gathered, some curious, some joyful, all witnessing the union of two people who had found each other against all odds. During the ceremony, Naomi and James exchanged vows that spoke not just of love, but of trust, courage, and respect. They promised to care for one another, to support each other through hardships, and to honor the lessons and traditions that had shaped them. Tears were shed, laughter echoed across the ranch, and the desert wind seemed to carry a sense of blessing over the gathering. For everyone present, it was clear that this union was not just about the two of them, but about the power of kindness, courage, and perseverance. After the wedding, life settled into a rhythm that was both familiar and new. James and Naomi worked together on the ranch, managing the cattle, caring for the land, and helping the community around them. Their partnership was built on mutual respect and shared responsibility. Naomi brought new ideas and perspectives, improving the efficiency of the ranch and introducing methods that reflected her understanding of nature and the land. James, with his experience and steady hand, guided the operations and ensured that their plans were realistic and sustainable. Evenings were a time for reflection and connection. They would sit together under the stars, talking quietly about the day, sharing dreams for the future, and remembering the journey that had brought them to this point. They laughed over small mistakes, celebrated successes, and found comfort in each other's presence. The quiet desert nights, once a symbol of solitude for James, now felt warm, alive, and filled with shared purpose. Children began to notice the couple, inspired by Naomi's courage and James's dedication. They would come to the ranch, curious about the animals, the land, and the stories of their adventures. Naomi and James welcomed them, sharing lessons about the desert, animals, and the importance of honesty, courage, and respect. In this way, their bond extended beyond themselves, touching the lives of many others and creating a legacy that would endure long after their own story had been written. Challenges continued to arise, as they always do in life. Weather could be harsh, animals sometimes got sick, and neighbors occasionally questioned their choices. But together, James and Naomi faced these difficulties with patience, understanding, and teamwork. Each challenge strengthened their bond, reminding them that life's trials were easier to bear when faced with someone who truly cared for you. Over the years, their love deepened. Naomi became more than a partner. She was a teacher, a guide, and a source of inspiration for James and everyone around her. James became not just a protector, but a friend, a confidant, and a steadfast partner who shared the responsibilities, joys, and sorrows of life equally. Together, they created a home that was full of warmth, laughter, and love. They also worked to bridge the gap between their worlds. James learned more about Apache traditions and culture, attending gatherings and ceremonies with respect and curiosity. Naomi shared her knowledge of the land, the desert, and the ways of her people, helping James understand perspectives he had never considered before. Their relationship became a symbol of what could be achieved when mutual respect and understanding guided actions, rather than fear or prejudice. As years passed, their story inspired others. People who had been skeptical of their union began to see the strength of their partnership. Neighbors learned that kindness and courage could bridge divides, and that love built on respect and shared experience was powerful and lasting. The ranch became a place where others sought advice, learned from their experiences, and observed the harmony that could exist between different cultures and traditions. In the quiet moments, James and Naomi often reflected on the journey that had brought them together. They remembered the desert, the moments of fear, and the years of separation. They spoke of the lessons learned, the challenges faced, and the growth they had experienced. And they laughed, remembering the small adventures, the playful moments, and the joy that had carried them through the darkest days. Their home became a sanctuary, a place where love, trust, and respect guided daily life. The land flourished under their care, the animals thrived, and their family and friends were welcomed with warmth and kindness. Each day was filled with purpose, whether it was tending the ranch, teaching children, or simply enjoying the presence of one another. One evening, as the sun set in a blaze of orange and gold, James and Naomi stood together on a hill overlooking the valley. The desert stretched endlessly before them, filled with memories, lessons, and hope for the future. Naomi rested her head on James's shoulder, and James wrapped an arm around her, feeling the steady warmth of their shared journey. "This place has changed," Naomi said softly, "but it feels more like home than ever." James nodded, his eyes scanning the horizon. "It has changed us too," he replied, "but in the best ways. We've faced life together, and I can't imagine it any other way." They stood in silence for a long while, watching the colors shift across the desert, feeling the quiet strength of their bond. The years of struggle, waiting, and hope had led them to this moment. A life shared fully, a love proven through action, and a future built on trust, courage, and understanding. As night fell, the stars appeared in the clear desert sky, and the ranch was filled with the sounds of animals settling in for the evening. James and Naomi walked back to their home, hand in hand, knowing that whatever challenges lay ahead, they would face them together. Their journey had been long, but it had been worth every step. They had found each other, built a life, and created a story that would be remembered, not just for the romance, but for the courage, trust, and kindness that had made it possible. In the years that followed, the ranch prospered, and the couple's love grew stronger. They became mentors, leaders, and guides for their community, showing that even in a harsh and challenging world, compassion and courage could create enduring happiness. Their story became a testament to the power of saving someone's life, to the importance of trust, and to the lasting impact of love and partnership. James and Naomi often reflected on their first meeting, the desert, and the moments that had shaped their lives. They knew that the path they had walked together had been extraordinary, filled with risk, hope, and the quiet courage of two hearts determined to trust one another. And as they watched the sun rise and set over the desert, they felt a profound sense of peace, knowing that their love had endured, grown, and flourished in a world that often seemed harsh, but could also be full of beauty, hope, and endless possibility. Together, they had created a life of meaning, connection, and joy. Together, they had turned a story of rescue and survival into one of enduring love, respect, and shared purpose. And together, they looked forward to each day, knowing that the bond formed years ago in the desert would carry them through every challenge, every triumph, and every quiet, beautiful moment in between.